My name is Tim Blumentritt, and this presentation covers the resource-based view of the firm. The resource-based view is the primary model for analyzing a firm's sources of distinctiveness, the characteristics that form the foundation for its value proposition. It is the central component of internal strategic analysis. When making buying decisions, customers have choices. Once they have decided to buy a product or service or satisfy a want or need, they scan available options. The strategic question is then, why do customers choose to do business with one firm over alternatives? What makes one company stand out from the others in the eyes of that customer? In its pursuit of superior organizational performance, a firm's objective is to be the most compelling option to the buyer. Achieving this goal depends on creating distinctiveness relative to available alternatives. We study distinctiveness through the resource-based view, which looks inside a firm to understand attributes that drive customers to do business with it rather than its competitors. Let's begin with the terminology of the resource-based view. Basic inputs are the factors of production used by every firm in an industry. This is as simple as stating that engineering firms will employ engineers and manufacturing firms will own factories. But this isn't to say that every firm has access to the same basic inputs. Basic inputs are relative to the industry. For instance, in order to be called a pharmaceutical firm, a firm must have patented medicines in its product line. A firm can't be a pharmaceutical firm without them. That is, patented medicines are a basic input for firms that are active participants in the pharmaceuticals industry, but only pharmaceutical firms have patented medicines. Strengths are basic inputs, but the ones that a firm believes it excels at. Not only does that engineering firm have engineers on staff, but its engineers are excellent at their jobs. Firms can assert strengths based on benchmarking or reputation, or simply their own opinions. Of course, firms may have weaknesses as well when they perform a basic input poorly. The reason that firms can't rely on their strengths for superior competitive performance is because it is possible for multiple firms to claim the same strengths. To continue with the example, every engineering firm will try to hire excellent engineers, those from good schools with solid work experiences. If they all succeed, which is entirely possible, all of them can claim that their engineering staff is a strength for their firm. But if all of them have the same strength, that characteristic is a competitive wash rather than a source of distinctiveness. While strengths are always nice to have, they may not be a competitive differentiator. So we have to move beyond strengths. To do so, we rely on the tenets of the resource-based view. I'll introduce three key terms here, but add more information on them in the following slides. Competitively valuable resources, or CVRs, are the building blocks of distinctiveness. They are pockets of excellence that separate a firm from its competitors. A CVR is any element of a firm that directly contributes to its meaningful separation from its direct competitors. Capabilities are systems of activities that bring those pockets of excellence to the marketplace. If CVRs are the building blocks of distinctiveness, capabilities are how those building blocks are integrated with one another to deliver benefits to customers. Last, core competencies are functionally no different than capabilities. They are still systems of activities, but they are the one or two capabilities that are most important to customers and their buying decisions. The rest of this presentation explores these three terms in greater detail. To repeat, competitively valuable resources are elements of a business that are its building blocks of distinctiveness. Any attribute that improves the effectiveness or efficiency of the firm's activities or adds value to its products and services is a potential CVR. These attributes go beyond mere strengths. While an element can be called a strength just based on opinion, determining something is a CVR requires passing objective market-based tests. A CVR must be valuable, rare, costly to imitate, and organized. There are two keys to meeting the valuable standard. First, the attribute must deliver measurable, meaningful benefits to the firm's separation from direct competitors. Second, the firm can create and manage that attribute at a cost that is lower than its contribution to the strategic benefits it creates. Rare means that not all competitors have the attribute. While rare does not mean unique, it implies that ownership of the attribute is uncommon enough to make a difference in the marketplace. A resource that is rare is also non-substitutable, meaning that other firms don't have different competitive attributes that serve the same purpose, undermining the CVR's rarity. We can use the soft drink industry as an example of rare. Both Coke and Pepsi have brand names that are far more well-known than the brand names of their competitors. So even though there are two of them, the Coke and Pepsi brand names are rare enough to make a difference, since there isn't a good substitute for a brand name in that industry. For an attribute to be a CVR, it must be costly to imitate. This means that other firms cannot easily replicate the attribute, even if they know what it is. A variety of factors may make a CVR costly to imitate. The firm could have done something in the past that creates advantages in the present, such as develop a patent or purchase the right piece of land. Or the firm could have had a team of people come together to create a great product, like a software package, even if they don't know exactly why that team was so productive at that point in time. In any case, CVRs are hard for competitors to copy, even if they can identify it. Finally, the firm must be organized to capture the value of the resource. This means that the firm has the appropriate structures, processes, and systems in place to expertly manage the attribute. Without proper organization, even valuable, rare, and costly to imitate resources will not result in a competitive advantage. Note that organized, in this case, only applies to the management of the CVR itself. Strategic capabilities examine how the attribute is integrated with other parts of the firm. Notice that all four of these tests compare a competitively valuable resource against elements that exist in the market or at other firms. That is, an attribute is rare only if most other firms don't possess it, and it is costly to imitate only if other firms have significant obstacles to overcome to recreate it. And an attribute meets the valuable and organized standards only if customers benefit from it. It is these market-based tests that distinguish between strengths or basic inputs that a firm is good at from CVRs or attributes that are true sources of distinctiveness. A couple of additional points about CVRs. The first two bullet points are vital to correctly using the resource-based view framework. An element must exhibit all four attributes to be called a CVR, and the VRIO test is applied to elements of a firm, not the firm as a whole. While these two factors are inherent in the definition of CVRs, they are easy to confuse. Keep them in mind when conducting a RBV analysis. CVRs come in different forms. Tangible CVRs are things that can be touched, like customized manufacturing equipment or a piece of prime real estate. Intangible resources are the ownership of captured ideas or symbols, such as protected patents, copyrights, or trademarks, or financial resources, like significant cash balances or a strong capital structure. Last, organizational CVRs reflect the skills, competencies, relationships, and behaviors of the people working at a firm. This is where the war for talent takes place. In today's world, the most competitive companies draw on organizational and intangible CVRs far more than tangible resources. Next, resource heterogeneity means that CVRs differ from firm to firm within an industry. This point helps us remember that there are multiple paths firms can take in the pursuit of excellence. For example, consider two car dealerships located near each other, both selling similar cars. One dealership charges higher prices but offers high-touch service with lots of personal attention, a consultative approach to sales, and premium service operations. The other dealership, alternatively, sets lower prices by offering only transactional sales support and basic services. Both of these dealerships could be successful, even though they take different approaches to selling cars because of their appeal to different customer segments. Last, resource immobility means that CVRs often cannot be bought or sold. In particular, intangible and organization resources are typically so ingrained in the fabric of a firm that trying to extract them is near impossible. Resource immobility is the reason that many mergers and acquisitions turn out to be failures. In the act of buying a company that has CVRs, the acquisition process itself can ironically lead to the destruction of those attributes. CVRs are important sources of distinctiveness, but to generate returns, these pockets of excellence must be brought to market. This is where capabilities and core competencies come into play. Capabilities are systems of activities designed and implemented by executives from various parts of the company to have an impact in the market. Capabilities consist of CVRs along with other basic inputs, strengths, and even weaknesses within the organization. In other words, strategic capabilities are the result of integrating activities that may be spread out across various departments within a firm. As a simple example, imagine a firm that is just average at sourcing and distribution, pretty good at manufacturing, but has distinctive retail locations and R&D. If the 5 functions do not work well together, they would not optimize performance, and the retail locations and R&D function would not produce the value that they could. If, however, they are integrated into a system with each of the 5 contributing to the performance of the whole, their strategic power increases rapidly. Creating and maintaining these systems is difficult. Notice that this simple example indicates that activities that reside in a variety of organizational units have to come together in a single system. This means that people with different responsibilities and skill sets, as well as a variety of activities and technological tools, all have to be aligned with one another. This is tough to do. In fact, one could argue that creating and maintaining strategic capability systems is the most difficult job that an executive team has to do. However, the resource-based view is strangely silent on how to do so. It provides the 4-part VRIO test for examining competitively valuable resources, but nothing of its like for capabilities. Instead, we'll use strategic activity systems as a means of studying how these streams of action come about. Strategic activity systems are covered in a different presentation. Core competencies are similar in structure to capabilities, in that they are systems of activities, but they are the one or two of those systems that truly define a company in the marketplace. Starbucks provides an example of the difference between capabilities and core competencies. We all know Starbucks as a place where you can get a good drink and a snack in a pleasant in-store environment. It is a reliable place to go to visit with friends or work on a laptop. What is less known is that the firm has an outstanding capability to access and develop real estate. It is one of the best companies at finding the right locations for its stores. Doing so involves many different activities within the firm, including real estate acquisition, finance, and location development, all of which might be CVRs on their own. In our terms, the food and beverages and the in-store environments are core competencies because they describe the firm's core presence in the market, while its real estate activities remain at the level of a capability. In some ways, the marketplace influences a firm's core competencies, even as the firm consciously tries to shape them through efforts to create and sustain certain systems of activities. Firms evolve over time in response to the things that customers love best about them. One last thing to point out. It takes a lot of work and dedication, not to mention a bit of luck, to create competitively valuable resources, organize them into strategic capabilities, then have customers recognize them as core competencies. This is not easy stuff. So once a firm has achieved those milestones, they are often loath to give them up. This means that firms like to be steady and consistent once they have something that works. But markets are always changing. To avoid gaps between what the firm offers and what the markets want, firms must continually strive to keep their attributes relevant. This requires them to invest in and upgrade their CVRs and find new ways to leverage them. If a firm does not close those gaps, it creates opportunities for new entrepreneurial companies or existing competitors to capture that business. The resource-based view is our primary framework for understanding the elements that lead to distinctiveness, the reasons why customers choose to do business with one firm over alternatives. The key to utilizing it is appropriately applying its terminology to identify and distinguish between basic inputs, strengths and weaknesses, competitively valuable resources, strategic capabilities, and core competencies. And this concludes the presentation.